Hey everybody, welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. I'm here with the independent outsider, Dave Denton. Dave, how are you? Happy New Year.
I'm doing all right. Happy New Year to you. And by the way, I am kind of honored to do this because it's basically your anniversary show. So, great 1 year. So, and I've been doing this for about 6 months. And I have to say, not to get too crazy with the recaps, but back a year ago, let's see, I was listening to Rachel Maddow. I was freaking out because Hillary didn't win. I was like, "Oh my God, Bernie's going to save us!" And now I'm a self-proclaimed political atheist, and I'm looking up, WikiLeaks. I'm researching WikiLeaks emails and stuff. So I've come a long way, and you're part of it. So I appreciate you and everybody else that's helped me along in becoming more aware. So.
Thanks, man. Don't forget to look in the camera.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Well, yeah, man. I appreciate that. It's been an amazing year. I actually spent New Year's Eve with Jimmy Dore and Steph and a bunch of other people, and it was really cool to kind of reflect on. Since this is this is now a year that I've been doing this show and have gone from, 164 subscribers to almost 7,000, and everything that we've covered and all the stuff that I've been made aware of by Jimmy and people in the progressive community, and also just people such as yourself and all the followers of this show who have sent me articles and the discussions we've had on the super chats. And it's been, it was a year of big change for me personally, but it's been a really great journey to go on. So, and the thing that's also cool is so you gave your December Skype to Stevie at Redneck Economics, and then Christopher Ross, I believe, gave his to you. So.
And I have an extra one, so I don't know. I don't know where we're going to go with that. We'll see. Some of what I want to talk about, a lot of what I want to talk about is kind of the direction of my own channel. Okay. Now, I have 2 interviews coming up with political candidates, and the way I feel is I'm not really interviewing them I can't really endorse them, but I want to see how serious they are in being civil servants. Whether they win or whether they lose, the 2 candidates that I have to contact them again because I told them I couldn't do it in December. Is Angelica Earl? She's running in Missouri, and Johnny Axum. So, and Johnny Axum really he is impressing me a lot. So he mentioned. And I've been waiting for somebody to say this, that the role of an activist and the role of a politician is to create their own obsolescence. And I've been saying that for about a decade. So for someone to actually come out, and Angelica Earl, what interested me in her is that there's something coming up called there are some contracts that people are coming up with. There's the contract for American renewal, which a few candidates are signing, and there's a contract. I have to look at the exact specifics of it, but there's a contract that Angelica Earl has proposed where companies will say they're going to give certain concessions for something back. Before I get too crazy into that, I have to look more into it. But there's some really good ideas out there. So
I think that's the thing too that's sort of been impressing me, and is giving me hope as I'm meeting all of these people that are running, that are getting involved. I think the Trump victory woke a lot of us up.
Right.
It in interviewing Sam Ronan and interviewing the people at Our Voices and interviewing some of the people that are running against, like I met last night the woman, I think Allison, I forget her last name, but she's running against Dianne Feinstein in California. Like that's
right. Right.
She was interviewed. She's been on Jimmy Dore show, and just hearing what she has to say, and it's really it's exciting and it's interesting, and seeing interviews with people like Jimmy Dore interviewed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's running in the Bronx.
Right.
And man, she is a activist. I see her presence online and everything she's being involved in. That's the kind of stuff that actually gives me hope and everything. So let me ask you this: so when you're interviewing these people to see what type of civil servant they're going to be, what are the questions that you're asking them?
Well, I only had one interview so far. I interviewed Sema Hernandez in December. And I interviewed her along with Holly Seeliger. Basically, it's with Sema. She's actually is running against Ted Cruz. First, she has to get through the primary, and in December she was just trying to get in the Democratic primary. But my question for her, it's always about qualifications. That's the first thing. How does being an activist, and how does your personal experience lend towards being a civil servant as opposed to somebody who's been in the job for 15 years? How are you more equipped to handle the problems of the people than the politicians? That's the very first question that I'll pretty much ask anybody. And if somebody can't answer that, but she answered it beautifully. She was in the medical field for a long time. She lives in Texas, and she was affected by the hurricane in Houston. She lost her car during the election, and she still got in the primary. So for her main thing, she's a little hard-headed. She actually she was running as a Justice Dem. And the Justice Democrats told her, well, you're going to run in the House of Representatives in this district. And she said, no, I'm running for the Senate seat. And they're like, no, you're not going to win. She's like, I don't care. I'm either going to run for the Senate seat or that's it. And they said, well, we'll keep an eye on you. She's like, go ahead, keep an eye on me. So it's that you have your own ideas, and you also are tenacious. I did ask her that if, obviously she's a long shot. Just to get on the primary, it took her, and now she has to run against the Democrat, who is an established Democrat who has the Democrats behind her, of course. And then after that, she's running against Cruz. But those are the kind of people that we need to look at. And even if, and I had followed her for months, but even if she doesn't win, you still follow these people. This is how you build a base. This is how you build, and it's not just inside. I mean, I know, we all know, the people that watch this show know that the game's fixed. So you have to see, as far as the people go, what resources we have, and it's not really about the party either. I've come up with a hashtag which people love because it's different. It's like you get rid of the acronyms, but you also get rid of the political parties. Alphabet free in 2018. Look. I kind of backed off on the Green Party because it's about who can help fix the problems. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. If you're Sam Ronan and you're running as a Republican for a specific reason, because it's a gerrymandered district, I'm going to keep an eye on you. But if you win, you better do what the hell you said you were going to do.
Well, that's the key. I think that's and for all of us here, observing it and talking about it is, for the Sam Ronins of the world who are running. Good for them. If they do win, then they need to be held. We need to hold them accountable. We can't just go, "Yay, we won! We got the establishment out of there." So I think that's the key thing here, because that's my question that I kind of have for all of them is. Many of them are like, you got the system's rigged, so you got to change it from within. Which, okay, that's a fair. I tend to agree with that. I wonder though, can they change from within without selling out?
Well, my thing is, we need to stop worrying about. We have to get plugged into. I think that this will be the year in which more citizens get involved and do things like this. More citizens get involved, because to worry about the elections happen, every 4 years, 2 years. You can't wait for someone to help you. Again, I know that we have to help ourselves now. You know what's going on. We know what's going on, whether it be in Yemen, or there's some big doings on in Africa too, but whether it be there or in the United States locally, whatever, we know. Why are we continuing to count on other people when we see the results constantly? So, and to go to some of the other things that I want to do, I know I have noticed that when I come on a show like this, or when I do stories, or when I do live streams, a lot of times we are presented with a problem. Like, oh my God, this is going to happen, in a couple of weeks. Call your congressman. There's a problem. We are presented with a problem. We get outraged, and then we're presented with a solution. Instead of, we need to break that dynamic. That's kind of the Heigel's principle. We need to break that dynamic and say, okay, you're presenting me with a problem. What the hell do you want? It's kind of like going back to my union roots. All right, you guys are throwing something at me. The media is like shoving stuff down our throats. This Iran thing, it's like all of a sudden Iran. Okay, do we have military bases in Iran right now? I'm not sure if we do. Is that what the end game is? What do you guys want? I don't know.
We don't have military bases in Iran, but we sure want them there.
And I think that's part of it. I mean, we don't have them in Venezuela, Iran, and North Korea. We don't have them in China, and we don't have them in Russia. So we can't get bases in China and Russia. So what countries have we been really hearing about lately? North Korea, Iran, and Venezuela.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's when you think about it, I know a lot of people are tired, and I know a lot of people, kind of count on the news to feed us, but we have to start thinking critically, which is why I love the fact that you, a comedian, and Jimmy Dore, a comedian, and Lee Camp, a comedian, are getting involved in these kind of things, because one of my just all-time favorite political activists was George Carlin. I mean, he was out of his mind, but because comedians think critically and they think outside the box. So
I think that's the big issue here. I mean, is to get people to get out of this old way of thinking, this two-party system thinking. And because I did a podcast recently, and they asked me, like, wow, Graham, how do you every time one of your videos seems like you've done just hours and hours of research going into it. And I say, well, actually, it's the cumulative knowledge of all of the videos that I've done to where it's easy for me to connect the dots. Once you wake up to, it's like the Matrix. Once you see that you have been plugged in and fed lies, once you see that America is an empire, once you see that it is motivated by the oil industry and the military industrial complex, then everything else makes sense. Then it's easy to connect the dots. When all of a sudden there's this new footage of aerial secret footage of China giving North Korea fuel to their ships, you know, oh, well, China's been doing that for years, but now we need them to be bad guys, so it all makes sense. You know, the neocons inside the Beltway were not in favor of Donald Trump because he, in his campaign, was talking very anti-deep state stuff. He was saying, and they were all favors, they all wanted Hillary Clinton in there.
Right.
So, but then the minute Trump gets elected, guess what? All of a sudden he backpedals on, you know, he in the campaign, he was, there's all these tweets, it's all documented, him being critical of us being in Afghanistan, critical of doing business with the Saudis, critical of bombing in Syria, and on and on. And so, but the minute he comes to power, well, guess what? There goes the troop count goes up in Afghanistan, where he sells weapons to the Saudis, and he's you know, bombs Syria and says, oh, I changed my mind after seeing the footage. And so once you see how things are really operated, and that's the thing I'm trying to get people. When I listen to my friends go, oh, the Republicans are evil, the Republicans are evil, I say, okay, yeah, the Republican Party does a lot of bad stuff, but how did this happen? Like, it's you know, Obamacare would have been better if it wasn't for the Republicans. I go, no, that is incorrect. Obama had the Senate and the House. He and the Democrats controlled 3 branches of government, and it was blocked. Obamacare, the public option was removed out of there by Democrats. And once you start seeing that and getting people to think critically, then you can get them out of this this sort of neoliberal binary view of the world. But what else do you want to talk about?
Well, I want to say there's a few things, and hi Red, she just private messaged me, but there's a few things I want to talk about. Part of my training, I never really talked about this. I actually did some very, very, you know, amateur Second City stuff when I was in Chicago. So I have that in my repertoire. I also have a master's of education, and I have some research experience because I did some research work for my master's, and I know a lot about contracts. So a lot of the stuff that I do is with contracts and with the use of the English language. Couple things I've learned with contracts is contracts only as good as when both people or both parties honor the contract. So if, you know, look at the Constitution, look at different contracts, look at the Native Americans, look at, you know, a contract is great if the contract is honored. What do you do if it's not honored? I want to get into the use of language more in my podcast. There's some terms that I really want to retire, which one of the first ones, and people know this. People know as soon as I said that, they know one of them. One of them is woke, because woke is and woke AF. That's a permanent condition. We are always waking up a little bit more. We are always learning a little bit more. And when I say I'm woke, you're not woke yet. I'm separating myself from you. That's absolutely silly. Net neutrality. I think that's actually kind of it's a deceptive term, because the internet, yes, everybody can use the internet, but the military can see what we're doing. We don't really, without Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, that was never meant to be public, obviously. So, as far as privacy goes, no, the internet is not neutral. And fake news. You know what? You want to call it fake news, call it bullshit, and call it lies. Just call me a liar. Just say that I'm not telling the truth. And then I get to prove it, and then I get to take your ass to court. Stop calling it fake news. Call me out. Tell me I'm not telling the truth, and then I will back it up with the facts. I'm tired of when facts are presented that it's called fake news, and to go from there. I want to try to get more into the presentation of facts as well. I have been extremely honored, and I'm sorry, I'm like nodding off because I'm kind of tired and I got a cold, so I'm doing this thing. But I have been extremely. I went from having two subs to speaking with and working with someone who edits clips for Susie Dawson and Elizabeth DeVos, and hearing their process as they go on. Disobedient media, anyone who is actually looking for a legitimate, honest to God news source. I know you're talking about Abby Martin and you're singing her praises. And by the way, props to her, because I didn't really know that much about Monsanto until I was like, oh my God, you talk about the Koch brothers. Monsanto, they're basically like Dr. Poison from fucking Wonder Woman. I mean, that's what they are. Every evil, DDT, the, saccharin, all the evil chemicals in the world, a lot of them they came up with. But they're cool because they have a little plant logo by their name now, because they were able to hire a marketing firm. But, Elizabeth DeVos and Disobedient Media, they're coming out with some fantastic news stories. Everybody talks about, they were talking about Weinstein, they were talking about Al Franken. Nobody talked about Dennis Hastert and the fact that there was a court order that just came out ordering Hastert is not allowed to be unsupervised with minors. Now, obviously, there's a reason for that, but why, if we are so worried about harassment and sexual assault, why was that story not presented to us in mainstream media? Because it doesn't serve them at all. Hastert's gone. Who cares about Hastert? Well, we should know about that. And the Anthony Weiner, there were some new emails that are being reviewed. What I love about Disobedient Media is that they take the time. Right now, Susie Dawson and Elizabeth DeVos are looking through Vault 4. It takes time to review these. So we're at Vault 8, I think. But they're doing some amazing work and coming up with some just revelations that we probably already knew about and about, but just some amazing stuff.
I think I'm glad you bring up the Disobedient Media thing, because it's I'm not that aware of them, but I love learning about a new independent news source online. And the thing I like about them, which is why I've been recently watching a lot of Empire Files, it's a long form interview. You don't get this on the corporate media. You get a 60 to 90 second package, just quick clips, and they show a graph and they interview somebody, and then they're just telling you, oh, this is fact, and you're just supposed to, oh, okay. Whereas, I think it's great that Disobedient Media is going through all of the various vaults and breaking them down. And back to what you said about the net neutrality stuff, I don't know, the saying someone, I understand that, we're all awake, and saying I'm more woke than you is sort of it's a ridiculous sort of I'm more enlightened than you competition and all that stuff.
It's just a pet peeve of mine, actually.
It's like a semantic.
I'm an English nerd, so I pay attention to that crap. But it's the language, it gets into our head. Bernie would have won. How many times are people going to say that? I don't care if he would have won. It's not what's happening now.
Yeah,
so what are they,
yeah, I mean, all that stuff is relevant up to a point, and I think it's valuable to a point in the sense that it needs to be, because the corporate media and the American empire's propaganda machine is very good at getting these things in everybody's just sort of daily vernacular, like, oh, single payers pie in the sky. I heard so many people that I consider to be smart, educated, intelligent, critical thinkers just say that because that message was fed so succinctly and so consistently through the corporate media that everybody just accepted that. Oh, it's pie in the sky. Or, man, you saw those videos out of Syria. Boy, I don't like Trump, but he had to bomb them. And it's just like they did such a good message with that. So to me, while I don't want to dwell on Bernie would have won, the only time I bring that up is when I hear people like Hillary or when Donna Brazile came forward last month and said, yeah, it was all rigged. And then people claim, oh, we shouldn't. Or then I think the Bernie would have won is sort of like, I don't want to dwell on that. But it's like, they're like, why do you Bernie people keep bringing it up? I don't keep bringing it up. Hillary keeps not taking responsibility for it at every turn. So every time she says that, and all these Hillary people say, oh, it's Jill Stein's fault or whatever, I go, well, Bernie would have won. You're terrified of Trump in the White House? What would Bernie Sanders in the White House have looked like? And I don't say that to dwell on it. I say it to go, so don't you think now this is why I can't support the Democratic Party and the corporate Democrats, because we could have had real change happening, And then some people say, well, if Bernie would have won, he'd be dealing with a Republican, whatever. And I said, yeah, fine. And then we would see all of the Republicans blocking him and all of the corporate Democrats blocking him. And then guess what 2018 we would have done? We would be voting in all of these pro-progressive, pro-Bernie style people. And I say that to people of going, look, instead of dwelling, I'm not bringing up Bernie would have won to dwell on 2016. I'm showing you this is why we can't accept the lesser of two evils paradigm anymore. We cannot accept it because it has painted us into this corner where now the experts on the corporate media just say, there's nobody saying, wait a minute, we shouldn't be going to war with North Korea or Iran. They just immediately get an ex-general on there who is now paid by the defense industry to say, yeah, when war happens, here's what we'll debate, how it's done. So the war is a foregone conclusion. So right. To me, a little bit of Bernie would have won is a little bit relevant to use it as the mistakes that were made back there, let's look at them, focus on them, so that as we go forward, this does not happen again.
Right. And my thing is, let's focus on, yeah, we could try to get people in. I want to focus on election reform also, because looking at what happened in Brooklyn and with New York with Bernie, I mean, we're just rolling our eyes and Bernie just took it. Honestly, what I think is going to happen is that Bernie's going to run again. I think Bernie is going to be Bernie and Kristen Gillibrand. I think that's what it's going to be, and it's going to be kind of a Bernie Hillary paradigm again, and we'll see what happens. But I think we are being set up to kind of rely on, okay, what's going to happen? We can't really do anything until this new leader comes up. And you notice that when we talk about healthcare, it's no longer about the Affordable Care Act. It's Obamacare and it's Trump Care. So it is the leader who has their name attached to it. I think that's by design, obviously. We have to focus on the leader. The leader will give us the health care. No, we fought for every damn little bit of everything that these guys aren't going to give us what we want unless we pound the table for it.
No, it's a relevant point. It's like, I think that's part of the problem. And it's by design that Americans are supposed to stay apathetic and just wake up every 4 years and vote for
right.
the empire. And I agree with what you're saying. People need to get involved on the day-to-day basis of reform, the day-to-day basis of activism, and know that you're gonna have to go through some small losses and some small victories
Right.
before you affect change. If you think you're going to just get involved and then we're going to elect them, because this is my fear going into 18, is all these people on the left are just going to say we need to win a bunch of Democrats, and then a bunch of Democrats are going to win. Many of them will be corporate Democrats, and everyone will go, "Yay, we did it! We beat Trump."
Right. Well, I want to get a couple more points in. Congratulations on recreational marijuana, by the way. So, so what are we going to do? We're going to legalize marijuana in a couple of states, especially the really liberal ones, so people will calm down a little bit and be stoned. And artificial intelligence is becoming a thing. It's not enough for me not to have to get off the couch and I have my remote in my hand. Now I have a remote or a voice activated remote. I don't even have to find a remote anymore. I can just talk into a thing. Or we have, which scares the hell out of me, driverless cars. And we're talking about actual Android, we're talking about Android, this isn't coming up right away, but Android workers, which will get rid of the labor force, and we won't have to worry about hiring those pesky labor workers anymore. I think it's, this is by design. You're having us work less and have to do less. And I've also noticed in the movie industry, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, Wall-E and Big Hero 6, those two robots were lovable. The one, the one fluffy marshmallow guy from Big Hero 6, he's a puffy, really lovable, huggable thing. Do you really think that if the powers that be make AI, that's what it's going to be? I think they're training people to think that that's what the AI is going to be. AI scares me a little bit. I think there's a use for it and a need for it when it comes to something like Stevie and Mitchell Helt, who you just interviewed. They mentioned that there were certain really microsurgery kind of things that artificial intelligence could really help with because they're extremely precise. But if you use an artificial intelligence to tell someone that a friend or a spouse has died, no, you don't do that, because they don't have the emotion. You don't have the human thought process going through. It's bad enough now with cops. Now you're talking about robot cops. No, AI scares me a little bit, and maybe I'm just an old crank, but I don't think so. I don't think so. It's taking our work, but not only that, it's taking our thought process and our critical thinking away. So,
well, that's another way they want it. They don't want us to have critical thinking. They want us to just be employees and consumers, and and to not participate. But all right, Dave, we're almost out of time here. What last thing would you like to discuss?
Couple more shout outs, because I didn't mention one of my original influences again, Jesse Ventura. Since September, he's had a new show, World According to Jesse. Please check him out. He's through RT now, through Empire Files, through her old channel. And there's a brand new YouTuber that I found through Red Economics. Please check out Lisa Hausman, because she has it on the ball. She mentioned it. I only saw her once, but War is a Racket by Smedley Butler. She has a copy of it in her kitchen, but she is more about, let's have some fun. She has trivia questions and things like that, and she keeps it light, and doesn't really get too much in the political strain. So if you want to just have some fun and chat and talk, Lisa Hausman, she's another person from Charleston, West Virginia, from Stevie's area. So check her out. And again, I've come a long way. I think we are moving forward. Whether you agree with me about every single thing, I don't think I don't think that's possible, really. And I don't want that. I don't want, bored thinking. That's a scary thing, because that's what mainstream media does. But Happy New Year. I hope we just keep going. I hope you feel better. Try that lemon honey and cayenne pepper thing. It actually really helped me out. But thanks for everything you do. I'll let you know. I'll let you know what's going on, later in the month. I'll either give you, some updates on the interviews that I have done and stuff like that, or I may even suggest somebody else to interview, because there are a ton of people out there with some really good ideas, some really good information. I would have never met Mitch Helt, and he is an amazing guy, if it wasn't for the After Hours crew. And there are a lot of people out there.
Well, I appreciate that. Dave, thank you so much for being on the show, and it's been such a cool journey for me, and meeting people like such as yourself. And that Mitch Helt interview was he was so informative, and it's so. This is why I love this community. Is here's a guy that spent his whole life working in factories and manufacturing, and he's bringing this very forward thinking. And the thing is, yeah, you touched on a great point. It's not about all of us agreeing on every single issue. That's never going to happen. So
right.
The point is, we're all in agreement that we need to fix the world, that there's a lot of things that are broken, and the best way to fix it is with a progressive point of view, and
right.
A progressive outlook, and a progressive approach. Part of being a progressive is wanting to progress, wanting to find the new ideas, trying a bunch of things. As I said in the Mitchell Helt interview, FDR, he was like, let's try all these programs. Some of them aren't going to work. And like, whichever ones don't work, that's fine. And so it's really cool and the fact that you guys started this whole After Hours crew was a result of watching my show, I think, which is flattering.
Here's another thing too. Just because, let's say you really don't care for me, which how could you not, because I'm adorable, but let's say you thought I was a son of a bitch. Lyndon Baines Johnson was a son of a bitch. He wasn't a likable guy, but look at the progressive things that he pushed forward, and it was part of the reason that he was able to get those things forward is because he was the way he was. So just because you may not like somebody doesn't mean that they are not useful towards your cause. I think that's something that people do, and we as lefties, we need to get over, well, I don't like that guy. I don't want to work with that guy. Stop that. Just look at the bigger picture.
Well, yeah, because a good idea is a good idea.
Right. How can we use urine? I mean,
yeah, I mean, literally, it's like Mitch Helt's ideas. I mean, those are good ideas, and they're ideas that are rooted in science, and it sounds like many of them are already in play. They're not like concepts; they're already have been implemented.
A lot of it's already in place, yeah.
So it's really great. But Dave, thank you so much, man. I look forward to everything that we're going to discuss and get involved with, and hopefully change for the better in 2018. So.
Folks, I'm going to be sending you some stuff. Because I know you're really interested in Yemen. The Yemen files and WikiLeaks is amazing. And some of the stuff I don't really understand because it's a lot of equipment. So if you could get a chance to look at that, I'll definitely send you some of that stuff.
Please send me that information. Yemen is it's very important to me, and I think it's more of a critical linchpin than people realize. It's not.
I'm starting to realize that because of the amount of the percentage of oil that we use from Yemen. I'm getting.
The Saudis do whatever they want, because we're so beholden to them. It's not just some crazy little war in a far off land. It is a bigger cog in the American empire's machine than most may realize, and it affects so much more of what is happening here and what needs to change. So, folks, check out Independent Outsider. He's got a cool show, and there's a great community out there of activists and independent media folks such as Dave and myself. So I very much appreciate it. And of course, this is what you get at the $25 level on Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood, the links are all below. You can have interviews like this, and we'll talk about whatever crazy progressive wingnut shit you want to talk about. So
we have the eugenic flu. Blah blah blah. Lord.
So David's reporting to me. He's live from Area 51. It's great.
One of my other names is Dave Roswell, so there you go.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, you guys. And remember, let's all try to make Gotham great again.